Hello and welcome to Addicted to Lacrosse. This is Season 5, Episode 6. Today is Sunday, January the 21st, 2018. With me, as always, are Melissa Daphne and Tyler Fitch. A bunch to talk about today. We've got a few items of news to get to first, and then a couple of really interesting games. And and one other topic that we're hoping to get to if we have some extra time. So since there was only 2 games, we added some extra content. So let's start off with a few injuries to the Buffalo Bandits. Matthew Bennett is out for the year. I don't even know what it was that he hurt, but he's done. Mark Stainhouse is also out. I originally saw 4 to 6 weeks. I've since seen 6 to 8. So that's kind of a big thing for the Bandits. Fill those spots, we have Ryan Wagner moved from the injured reserve to the active roster, and Liam Patton moved from the practice roster. I think they both played on Friday night. But the more interesting news there is that Bill O'Brien and Zach Haywires were signed to the practice roster, and I imagine it won't be too long before they are moved to the active roster. Just getting them in game shape, since neither of them has played yet this year. Bill O'Brien, of course, released by the Black Wolves earlier this year, and Zach Haywires was not re-signed by the Colorado Mammoth after playing a handful of games last year. Other news, one other move by the Black Wolves, they released Ryan Hotaling, who was their face-off guy for the last couple of years, but then they signed Jay Thornbert.
Yep.
And so I guess they decided the Hotaling was no longer necessary. They said thanks, bye, and Hotaling is a free agent now. The other big bit of news, and I think we'll probably talk about this more often, or more near the, part of it anyway, near the end of the season, have announced that their head coach and GM for next season will be former Rochester Nighthawks coach Paul Day. And Paul Day's been around for a long time. The Nighthawks for a while, and then he was fired, and I'm not sure if he went somewhere else and came back, but up until this announcement, he was the assistant coach for the Nighthawks. So a lot of people have played for Paul Day, and there was a lot of talk on Twitter about how this is a really good move for the Wings, and so he'll be. Have they announced who the GM is going to be of the San Diego Seals?
No similar announcements out of San Diego that I've seen. Paul Day, he's currently the head coach in Peterborough in the summer, so he's very active in the coaching scene. He's got a great eye for talent. He gets to see players constantly, coaching for and against them. So it's a great move by Philadelphia to lock him up.
So the thing that I think. Sorry, Melissa, do you have something?
Well, I was going to say, as for the Seals, I know that Josh Gross and Steve Govett are involved, but I don't know if we do know their titles. But we do know they're kind of heading up the Seals. So
I'm pretty sure. I don't know about Gross, but I'm pretty sure Govett is the president of the team. But he said in an interview that he will not be the general manager. I kind of assumed that he would be, but he has said that he's not going to be.
Yeah, he said he's president and only president when he was talking to, I want to say, Teddy Jenner after the announcement.
So the thing that I think we'll be talking about more near the end of the season is the comment that he made about the expansion draft, which will be coming this summer. And so the way that's going to work, at least part of it, is that each team can protect 5 forwards, 5 defenders, and 1 goalie. So rather than just saying you can protect this many people, they've split it up between forwards and defenders. So no mention of transition players. So I'm assuming that each team can decide, they might put somebody like Jordan Hall as an offensive player or as a defensive player, probably whatever suits them, really. Which begs the question, why split them up in the first place? But in any case, that's only half of the roster. Every team has a 20-man roster. This is only 11 players, so almost half of your roster is going to be available to pick in the actual draft. And I think each team gets to choose, each of the new teams gets to choose 2 players from an existing team. 2 players each. How does it work?
Each team can only lose Yeah.
Can only lose 2 players. That's what it is. So, yeah. And Teddy Jenner made a good point on Twitter today that players that are unrestricted free agents not be re-signed before the draft. So if you've got an unrestricted free agent on your team, you can just leave him as unrestricted, and then you don't have to protect them. And of course, the other team is free to make him an offer, but the player would have to accept that offer in order for you to lose him.
Yeah, seems like a lot of wink, nudge, nudge. I'm not going to sign elsewhere stuff would happen that they can't fully police. Because, like, how do you start a team with a great player from BC who can get a max contract? You throw max money at him, and he's like, no, I want to play close to home. It's like, well, that's nice. But, like, it seems like there could be a little bit of collusion in such an event that would prevent teams who they want to get good players, and they say, all right, we'll get a bunch of people who are just off the cut, good players we've heard of, and want to get one superstar as an unrestricted free agent, and that guy will turn him down. It's because he wants to be closer to home, but he's with the same team he's been with before. Kind of may not be fair.
Yeah, I have wondered about this as well. Like, are we going to see something like the Black Wolves say, we've decided to part ways with Sean Evans, and it's just not working out, so we've released him outright. And then a week later, after the draft, when he decides not to sign with the Wings and not to sign with the Seals, and they re-sign him again. And so that way they don't have to protect Evans, and they get him anyway. But that seems kind of cheap. It wouldn't surprise me to see rules like if you release a player between this date and this date, then you can't re-sign him again for at least 12 months or something along those lines, just to get around these kind of cheap moves.
Yeah, but I would also
we might see some creative stuff going on.
For a player like Sean Evans, though, I would imagine sometimes players sign like, oh, I'll take a 1-year contract. And it's every year they get a new 1-year contract. But the teams, they should be pushing people like, you're going to sign a 2-year contract. It means that we're going to have to use one of our protected spots to protect you as well. I mean, Sean Evans, like, you, as a GM, I would sign him to a 2-year contract every time, so he's covered whenever there's an expansion draft and he's not able to jump ship as a free agent. And it would cost me an exemption. He's got to take one of the spots. But man, player of his caliber, that's what you do. You don't roll the dice.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun, I think, this summer to see who teams protect and who they don't. And so I'm sure more details on how the draft is going to work will be released as we go. But we have a few details there to discuss. So that was fun. All right, on to the games of the week. And we had a couple of interesting ones. Buffalo, of course, beat Saskatchewan 16-15 in OT on Friday night.
That I turned that game off and it was 9-3, and I had to go get some dinner.
Yeah, nothing really interesting happened after that. So
holy criminy! I watched it. Then wow.
And today's game, if you watch the first quarter, it was going to be a huge high-scoring game. It was like an 18-17 kind of thing, and that didn't happen much at all. So that was New England over Rochester 11-9 in kind of a nail-biter, actually. So we will get to the awesomes and not awesomes of the week. And Tyler, you've got a bunch of them, so why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'm going to try and group them up a little bit here. So I'm going to start up in today's game in New England. First of all, I was pleasantly surprised by their attendance. They announced 5,000 something, and I had a much more pessimistic expectation because it was 2 hours before the New England Patriots football game. I mean, they're states apart, maybe 100, 150 miles apart. So they're not really the same New England, even though they're both called New England teams. But the crowd they're able to get on a Sunday matinee was most impressive. Similar, tying into this directly would be after the game and after their victory. One of my favorite players, Brett Manny, like, he gets on the mic and thanks the crowd for coming out, and I think that's super important because, I mean, some of these teams really struggle for fans, and he lets them know how important they were and that they make a difference. They weren't just there because maybe they got free comp tickets from the casino. Maybe they, I don't know, whatever reason they chose to be there, but they stuck around, watched the game, and they're not just things on the other side of the glass, but they're actually can be difference makers in the game. And so I think trying to make that connection with the fans, let the fans know that the players notice it and they're important to them was a great move by Brett. Yeah, I'll pass it on after those two together. I'm gonna go with you, Melissa. What do you got for an awesome?
So this was really tough to break this down because, as Tyler said with the first game, wait, what? So my first awesome is definitely towards that game with the Edmonton Buffalo game. Kirk and net. He was pretty awesome the first half, especially the first quarter, because Buffalo took some really good, solid shots, and he was able to just stonewall them. So the score definitely looked much worse than it might have been otherwise, but he was really awesome in net. So that's my first awesome. What about you, Graham?
Yeah, good buds. I see all locked up. I think he's all locked up.
All right.
Oh, he's flipping around. I'll do another one because I got a bunch. Sticking with the New England game, the goalie play after the first quarter was phenomenal. I mean, you have two of the best goalies in the league historically. You have Matt Vince and Aaron Bold going against each other. And after the first quarter, the score was 6-5 New England. I was like, oh boy, they're off and running. I was really worried. Like, is there something in like the psyche or the confidence of these great goalies that is like fractured or coming undone? Like, is Bold worried about the fact that he was traded and like he's coming out not great? And it's like it's in his head for some reason somewhere. But no, it was just a bad first quarter for both of them. All the players were just ready to play. I don't know. Because after the first quarter, they both locked it down. After 11 goals in the first quarter, there were 9 goals total in the next 3 quarters. 5-4 in favor of New England. So it was just night and day, whatever you can analogy come up with for polar opposites. It was just, they flipped a switch. It was low scoring, intense, hard earned goals by all these teams. And it made for a really good game. I love watching the games when teams score a ton. I mean, Saskatchewan and Buffalo were great, but it was equally great watching teams fight for their goals in a close battle. So that was a good experience there. All right. He's still gone. Back to you, Melissa.
Yeah, unfortunately, Graham dropped out for a moment. So we're going to stick with the goalies, and I'm going to highlight Higgins for Buffalo because he was the deciding factor, I think, in Buffalo even being able to launch that comeback because he made some very, very crucial saves towards the end of that game. And I think without him, it definitely would have been all Edmonton. So way to go, Higgins. It'll be interesting to see who gets the start next week or next game, I should say. I can't remember if they're playing this weekend. Right. Back to you, Tyler.
Sure. Yeah, they have had a lot of trouble with Bouquet, and he hasn't played 60 whole minutes in most games. So a little worried about that.
Yeah, like I said last week, I just don't think he's ready to be a starter. I think he has potential, but he needs to be still learning from somebody. I don't think he's quite that caliber.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. How do we invite Graham back in here? Because that's what he's asking about, and I can't find the button.
I don't know if we can since he launched it.
I know, right? Okay. This is the part that gets edited out of the podcast, but you get the live show. It's top notch.
Technical difficulties when somebody is the best and does most of the stuff for you.
Yep. So I will pause my thoughts for just 1 second and see what I can do. So all these options on the side.
All right. I guess while Tyler is fidgeting with those buttons, I don't think everybody wants to focus on that. So I will try and come with another awesome. I guess one of the big awesomes is one of the things we, of course, talk about a lot in this league is the fact that the game is never over until it's over. And I would say the Edmonton-Buffalo game is a huge proof of that, because Edmonton completely, and I do mean completely, dominated the first half. If I would not have known what the score was going to be before I finished watching it, I probably would have turned it off at half, because it was just really bad. Second half was different, but we also know that. So it's fun sometimes to have those big swings, because people who aren't familiar with the sport really just have their minds completely blown, which is always kind of fun, especially when you can have 6 goals scored in a minute or something crazy. But it's always fun to see a game go over to overtime too. So that was a lot of fun. Are we any closer, Tyler, or are we going to stick you with another awesome?
No, I think this is a interesting Google thing. Like, we're all part of the Addicted to Lacrosse account, but Graham starts it as Addicted to Lacrosse and invites our personal Gmail accounts. Therefore, when he leaves, we can't invite him because we're guests. And that's how it's behaving for me. Mm-hmm.
I suspect it'll be for me too. So if you want to try going with your next awesome, we will see if we can figure this out. Otherwise, Graham might just have to give us live notes.
I am checking something. I go here. I become here.
Yeah, because mine says I'm in a moderated call, so that it won't let me do anything.
Yeah.